What is myofascial release? Is it massage? Is it stretching? Is it trigger point? Is it just someone pressing on you for a really long time and calling it fascia? And honestly, depending on how you ask, the answer might be yes, no, or sort of. So in this video, I want to make myofascial release simple. Because once you understand what myofascial release is, and more importantly, how your nervous system controls tension in your body, this whole thing starts to make a lot more sense. But before we can really talk about myofascial release, we have to talk about fascia. Because this is the first place people get confused. Fascia is the connective tissue web that runs through the entire body. It wraps, supports, separates, and connects different layers of tissue. It helps things slide, it helps carry fluid, it gives our body its shape. And it's full of sensory nerves that are constantly communicating with our brain. Grab your shirt, pull it. Enough that it feels uncomfortable. Pulling on one side so it's tight, contours around your body on the opposite. Fabric bunched in your fist. Straight lines in the pleats of the fabric. Now try to move a little bit. There's some restriction. You can't move as easily as if there was no tension. It's caught, it's twisted. It's creating tension through the whole body. Not as a single spot, but the whole shirt is affected by this one line of tension. Fascia is this body-wide web. Mess with one area, it transfers across the whole system. But fascia does more than transfer forces and keep our shape. It's our body's freeway where all the blood vessels, nerves, and lymph flows through it. Which means when there's tension in the body, it's cutting off or restricting the flow of fluids. This flow keeps our tissues fed, repaired, and free of waste. Meaning if there's not enough fluid flow, our tissues are starving and getting toxic. And when things aren't getting what they need and getting toxic, this leads to tightness, pain, and if left long enough, disease. The third major piece of fascia is those nerves. These nerves are paying attention to pressure, stretch, movement, pain, position, in the internal feeling in the body. And this is one of the biggest reasons myofascial release is different than regular massage. Because the goal is not to just force tissues to change or drive fluid around. The goal is to communicate with a system that is listening. Fascia contains around 270 million nerve endings, 2 times more than the skin and 10 times more than the muscles. When we touch fascia, stretch fascia, hold fascia, or wait with fascia, we're not just touching tissue, we're talking to the nervous system. And that matters because your nervous system plays a massive role in tissue tension. Think about an angry thought in your mind. Noticing what happens. Feeling the jaw, the shoulders, how your breath changed. Nothing physically touched you, but your tissues changed because your nervous system changed. Which brings us to myofascial release. Communicating with the nervous system to trigger change. And when I say change, I mean release. Not some magical melting of fascia or breaking it apart with our hands. That's not really how I think about it. What we're doing is giving the body a very specific kind of input, of message. Think of it like someone asking you to raise your arm or a doctor tapping your knee to get your leg to kick. Both of those are ways of communicating with the body to do something. Myofascial release is doing something similar, but through the fascia. We're using slow pressure, sustained stretch, traction, stillness, and time. And they don't use oil in myofascial release, and there's a reason for that. To get that stretch. One of the nerve endings we talk about in fascia is called the Ruffini receptor. And the Ruffini receptors are different than a lot of the other sensory nerves in the body because they respond especially well to slow, sustained input. No quick rubbing, no bouncing, long, slow, steady contact. That's why a myofascial release can look like nothing is happening from the outside. Someone might be holding one area for a long time and we're thinking, I don't see anything happening. But inside the body, that slow, sustained contact is giving the nervous system a signal it actually knows how to listen to. And that signal leads to change in tone, a change in guarding, a change in how much the body is protecting an area. Because tissues can be tight for a lot of reasons. Overuse, dehydration, irritated. It can be holding a pattern from injury, surgery, stress, posture, and even emotion. So myofascial release is not just asking, how do I loosen this muscle? It's asking, how do I help this area remember how to move, glide, soften, and communicate again? And that's a very different question. And this is awareness becomes a huge part of the work. Because a lot of people are disconnected from the areas that hurt. The amount of clients I've pressed on an area and they said, I didn't know that was sore. The body has put that place in the background. So with myofascial release, we're not trying to force physical change. We're using touch to bring awareness back into the tissue. Feeling the contact, the stretch, the breath change. And that awareness matters. Because when you can feel an area more clearly, you can relate to it differently. You can start noticing what makes it tight, what helps it soften, and what your body has been trying to tell you. So the release and the awareness go together. The release helps the tissue function better. The awareness helps the nervous system relate to that area differently. It allows it to change its pattern. And both these lead to you being able to better control your body. And this is how I see the difference between massage and myofascial release. Massage is really good at driving fluid flow. Think of it as adding more pressure to the pipes. That's a big part of what it does. Using compression, rhythm, glide, and pressure to move through fluid through the tissues. And that can be incredibly helpful. There are times where this is exactly what the body needs. But myofascial release is asking a different question. What if we trigger the pipes to get bigger? That's the difference. Massage is often about moving more fluid through the system. Myofascial release is more about the body through messaging. We're using contact, stretch, traction, and time to communicate with the fascia and the nervous system so the body can open from the inside. So it's not that one is good and one is bad, it's context. Sometimes the body needs help moving fluid. And sometimes the body needs help releasing the tension, shifting the pattern that's keeping the whole system tight in the first place. So when I'm doing myofascial release with a client, I'm not pushing harder. It's about sending the right message, which means I set my pressure for what the tissues are asking for. And this is where I feel releases, by finding that Goldilocks zone. All right, as promised, here's the different flavors of myofascial release. One person might be doing what's called deep structural work. Another person might be doing very specific point work. Another person might be doing long, quiet holds. And all of them live under the same umbrella. So I think about these. There are three major branches that are useful to know. The first is the structural branch. This is where things such as Rolfing and anatomy trains live. This style is usually looking at posture, alignment, movement patterns, and how the body organizes itself as a whole. A very simple explanation of this, to experience it, is long, sustained strokes to the fascia. The second branch is fascial manipulation, or the Stecco method. This comes from the work of Italian physiotherapist Luigi Stecco. A very simple explanation of this work, think of it as trigger points. It's looking for areas in the fascia that may be creating pain, restriction, or compensation somewhere else. So instead of doing broad flow session, it might feel more like we're finding the exact spots that are disturbing the system. The third branch, and this is my personal favorite for people whose bodies are really sensitive, is the John Barnes style of myofascial release. This is the style to me fits under what I call awareness medicine. It's slower, quieter, more meditative. It uses long sustained holds and waits for the body to respond. And this is the style that really changed how I saw body work. Because when I started working more with John Barnes myofascial release, I started seeing different results with clients, especially clients who were sensitive, guarded, whose body didn't want more force. And in those sessions, it was not just about tissues letting go. Emotions came up, memories came up. People got off the table and had this really next level depth of calm. Like they'd just come back into a part of themselves that they'd not felt in a really long time. And that's why I call it awareness medicine, because the practitioner is not just doing something to the body, they are listening with their hands, waiting there. It's a two-person meditation. They're waiting and giving the body enough time and enough safety to show what it is holding. And yes, I use methods and ideas from all these branches, and even massage, because it's not simply about the tool, it's about what the person needs. And if you like this video, hit the subscribe button.